Good evening. Welcome to this Tuesday, July 19th, 2016 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. Will you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let me remind commissioners, please make sure your microphone is lighted green and speak into the microphone for the record. And we will call roll. Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner Berenson.
Present.
Commissioner Bowie.
Present.
Commissioner Crane. Commissioner Fizer.
Present.
Commissioner Meiske.
Present.
Commissioner Sarsfield.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present.
And Commissioner Faulkner is here. We do have a quorum. Thank you all for coming out on this very, very hot night. And we have no personal appearances this evening. One item on consent agenda, which is acceptance of minutes of our July 5th, 2016 meeting. Unless any of the commissioners have any concerns, I would entertain a motion either to approve the consent agenda or to accept minutes of our July 5th, 2016 meeting, as you prefer.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Berenson. Which was it? To accept the consent agenda?
Present, yes.
Yeah. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
One abstention. I wasn't
Okay,
here.
that's fine. I should have guessed. So we have 7 in favor, none opposed, and Mayor Turnbow abstaining. Minutes are approved. Nothing this evening under old business, and that takes us into new business. Our case this evening, case 16013, Raymore Municipal Center Site Plan, and I'll ask rather than guessing, so the applicant is City of Raymore. Mr. Carteret, would you like to present this case, or Ms. Hawk?
Ms. Hawk will present the case, and I'll present the staff
Staff
report.
report. Thank you, Ms. Hawk. Be sure that microphone is lighted, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present on this site plan for the Municipal Center this evening. As we discussed during my last presentation to the Commission, the Municipal Center will house the Parks and Recreation Department's administrative offices and also have a large event space. There will also be an outdoor gathering space behind the building, along with the trail network to connect the site to nearby sidewalks and trails along the trail network, and there will be an outdoor classroom. A significant component of the outdoor work on the project is cleaning up the detention areas around the building and implementing BMPs to make sure that we are exceeding water quality standards. As Mr. Carteret discussed in his staff, or will discuss in his staff report, the site meets all of the parking and landscaping requirements, and the use is compatible with the overlay district. I will go ahead and mention some items of note. The first is parking. There are 53 parking spaces required for this building, and we are able to meet that number of parking spaces with the new parking lot that we're constructing and the 230 spaces that currently exist in the municipal circle area. One of the items that city staff is also exploring is reconfiguring the parking around Municipal Center, or excuse me, around Municipal Circle, so that the street is one way, and we would be adding angled parking, which would double the amount of parking available on the street. For landscaping, as you can see, a significant amount of the site is reserved as landscape area. There is screening along the back of the property to create a barrier between the property and the neighbors. And the landscaping includes several key nodes and different gathering spaces, such as a central lawn with 2 groves of trees on the side, and like I discussed, the outdoor classroom. We've also included some of the exterior design for your review. It was designed, like we discussed last time, to coordinate with City Hall, both in the materials and the style. And the City Council did decide to go forward with a two-color brick to match the brickwork done on City Hall. And then on the back of the building, we have added a terrace along the back patio, so there will be covered space and allow the indoor event space to spill over into the outdoor area. And then, like I just discussed, there will be multiple exterior gathering spaces throughout the site. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions about the site design.
Commissioners, Commissioner Boyd?
Yeah, just a quick question. The buffer area, if you go back to that first slide, the kind of the buffer, I think you called it a screening area. Make it a second slide where you show, there he is. The buffer area just to the, I guess that would be the southeast. The trees there, is there a height requirement for those trees, or what is the maintainability of those trees in terms of size and so forth, just out of curiosity?
It's not specifically a height requirement unless they go with evergreen trees. We like to see a mixture evergreen, and then deciduous is based upon the caliper size. They have to be 2.5-inch caliper size when planted. So, you certainly don't have a full screen effect, for a few years after the initial planting. But fortunately, there are existing plantings on the north side of the detention basin where the trail location is, actually north of the trail. So there will be some immediate screening for a good bit of the existing facility.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Sarsfield?
On the buffer zone on the south end there, where the trees are, we know where the buffer zone is and so forth, and there's trees, but most people are oblivious to things around them. Is there going to be some kind of a fencing there, or some kind of a saying, private property? I'm just asking to see that, so, to stop a problem before it happens, so to speak. Let's say someone's walking thinking you walk their dog back there, like they do the park, then they ended up in someone's backyard, not knowing, even if it's 5 feet off the boundary line, they're just following their dog sniffing, they're just holding the leash.
So fencing is not something that we have discussed in that area. As you can see on that rendering, there is the trail system that goes throughout. So I think our expectation is that most people will stay on the trail in that area, which is a significant distance away from the edge of that property line, but it is certainly something we can keep our eye on moving forward. Good feedback.
Thank you.
Good questions. Other commissioners, any questions? We'll let you sit down
Thank you.
and call you back if we need you. Thank you. Mr. Carteret, if you would, give us the staff report on case 16013.
Yes, sir, thank you. So as Ms. Hawk indicated, the specific request tonight is for formal action by the Planning Commission for the site plan for the municipal center. And the site plan does cover lots 8 and 9, which did receive the conditional use permit for the use, as well as common area A. The initial drawing that we were focused on during her presentation also included the detention area to the east. And that detention area here on the screen here is just shown as a void area. Actually under separate ownership, but the city does intend to do a cooperative arrangement with that property owner to make some enhancements, because that property, it functions as a detention area, and that's the only interest that property owner has. But since it's adjacent to our property, we have a more significant interest in how it appears, because it's such an integral part overall of the design of the area. So we are making plans to do some improvements to that particular property. But the actual site plan focused on lots 8, 9, and the common area, Tract A. Overall, the acreage of the areas combined is a little over 4.5 acres in size. I did include in your staff report the standard requirements and specifications for site plan review. This, even though the city's the applicant, follows the same standards as a privately owned commercial property that goes through site plan approval. The one thing that's a little different, additional requirements for this property, is that it is within the city center overlay district, as Ms. Hauk indicated. The proposal does comply with all the CCO standards. There's additional design standards, additional requirements related to landscaping, parking, and even the positioning of the building upon the lot. In addition to the CCO standards, there's also some private development criteria for the municipal center that must be complied with. And so we went through that criteria to ensure that the project meets those requirements. The property itself, lots 8 and 9, does have the Parks and Recreation and Public Use zoning classification. And then, as I indicated earlier, the conditional use permit for the activities on the property, the use of the building and the outdoor related activities, that conditional use permit approved by City Council on June 27th of this year. The Engineering Division did submit a memorandum regarding the provision of facilities to the site. Under staff comments, kind of gone through a few of the items already. I'll touch on a few extra items. Ms. Hawk did indicate about the parking and the specifics related to the municipal center area and the shared parking ability. So the project is in compliance with those requirements. It exceeds the landscaping requirements of our code. The building design does comply with the basic requirements of our UDC as well as the overlay district standards. Pedestrian access, we will continue the sidewalk that exists along Municipal Circle, so it'll connect the existing building on Lot 7. There is to the sidewalk that exists along Broadmoor, and also there'll be the trail network that provides pedestrian access from Sunset Lane to the east, as well as High Grove to the west, and then there'll be connectivity, of course, to the site itself. So very good pedestrian connectivity for this project. Stormwater management, the stormwater runoff from our parking lot area and the building area will go to the Common Area A detention facility, which is established for the municipal center. The detention basin to the east that is owned separately, that's actually detention for the town center area, the commercial area where the dentist office is, and quite a bit of undeveloped land is still there, but it acts somewhat independently from the municipal center stormwater detention. An important component, though, of both will receive the BMPs that are required under our stormwater treatment ordinance. So we do not have, as part of site plan approval, the BMPs do not have to be exactly defined at site plan level. They do have to be defined and approved by the Public Works Director before installation. So that's the same scenario that we see with the Cadence project. They know they have to comply with the requirements of the stormwater treatment, but didn't have to show that at site plan. Site lighting, this project will be designed with compatibility to our existing lighting system that we have within the municipal center. In fact, the city's going through a process right now in our capital budget regarding installation of additional lights. What we're trying to do is make the completion. Right now, if you go out there, you'll see sidewalk on some lots, lights on some areas. We need to have that completed. Even on the undeveloped lots, we need to have a continuous sidewalk network and a continuous lighting network. And so those items are being proposed for consideration to have completed. Not necessarily as part of this project, but we want to have the entire pedestrian network and the lighting system in place. Trash enclosure, we do comply with the requirements as far as location and materials being utilized. We've already talked about the common area use. One of the nice things with the stormwater treatment improvements we're going to make is that in the summertime and other times of the year, the Parks and Recreation has a Nature Quest and a Summer Quest programs where they can do some learning activities out into the common use areas. So we're really excited about the outdoor activities that come along with the facility. The fire district did review the site plan and approved the same. They're comfortable with the access and to the facility. Staff did submit proposed findings regarding the site plan itself, and we do recommend that the Planning Commission accept those proposed findings and approve this case 16013, the Raymore Municipal Building Site Plan, subject to a total of 10 conditions. These conditions are standard conditions that we have regarding things that have to be done prior to commencing any land disturbance activities, which include state and city land disturbance permits. Of course, they have to have all erosion control measures in place before any land is disturbed. Before a building permit can be issued, the building construction plans have to be approved by our building official. And then before issuance of a certificate of occupancy, we have specific requirements on accessible parking, signage, if there's any above-ground utilities constructed, transformers, et cetera, that exceed our UDC requirements, they have to be screened. We don't know the details of that until the building construction plans are actually submitted, so that's why that's just a general condition. A very specific condition is the landscape screening does need to be provided on the south side of Common Area Tract A. We've talked briefly about that already. And of course, all work shall be completed in accordance with the site plan that's approved by the commission. And then we have perpetual conditions regarding when erosion control measures can be removed, as well as the requirement for the post-rain event erosion control inspections that must be completed. And if there's any illicit discharges that occur on the site, they have to be reported to the city. So those are the conditions we recommend being attached to our recommendation for approval. And that concludes staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Ketterat.
Chairman.
Mr. Zer.
Thank you very much. I wanted to confirm, I've just had the opportunity to speak with the applicant's representative, and they are good as far as the 10 recommendations with regard to this application.
Kind of hope so. Thank you, Mr. Zer. So this case does not require a public hearing, and it's open for discussion by the commission.
Got a question?
Who was, Commissioner Boyd?
More of a statement.
It's fine.
Tell me about signage in terms of, it looks like you guys have not planned any signage for it. Is there a reason behind that necessarily?
Thank you. Yes, there is actually a reason behind that. We are looking at developing a comprehensive wayfinding program throughout the city, and so we wanted to hold off on actually putting in any more signage than just what's on the building in order to incorporate this project and what's happening around Municipal Center into that wayfinding project. We also expect to undergo a branding process in the next year, and so we want to make sure that we're utilizing our new branding standards for the wayfinding signs as well.
Okay.
More to add?
Just that in the application, it says that there will be a wall sign over the front entrance area as illustrated and as I mentioned, and it will be similar to what's over City Hall, and there isn't a monument sign.
Okay. What is the program you're talking about? Can you?
Sure. So wayfinding is, when you go into a town and there's one signpost and it says, Recreation Park this way, City Hall this way, Memorial Park this way, Municipal Center this way. It's guiding people visitors through town. Mm-hmm. And so typically it's one signpost with some sort of designed directional signage on the top, and you locate that at various points throughout town. So it's very visible to people coming into our town how to find some key elements throughout the community.
Thank you. Other questions? Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, a couple questions. And apologies if I missed it. So in terms of growth, do we have, or has there been any discussion or plans to expand if that arises?
Yes, there actually has been, and Mr. Carteret, could you go to the actual site plan on that? We have looked at designing the space in such a way that it can expand to the southwest, so you can see the open space on the side of the building, and so that's where the building would be expanded if we decide at a point in time that it does need to be expanded.
Okay, great. I guess the last question is, was there any discussion in terms of LEED certification in terms of the building itself?
We did not have specific discussion about LEED certification for this space.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Other commissioners have questions? I know the minute we let Ms. Hawk sit down, somebody will come up with something. It's inevitable. Thank you. Any further discussion, or anyone brave enough to Make a motion on case 16013.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Anderson.
I'll make a motion to accept the staff proposed findings of facts and approve case 16013, Raymore Municipal Building Site Plan, subject to the following 10 conditions as presented.
Second?
Who was that? I'm sorry. Commissioner Sarsfield? Yeah. All right, so we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Sarsfield, to accept staff proposed findings of fact on case 16013, Raymore Municipal Building Site Plan, and approve the case subject to the 10 conditions noted in staff report. That sound about right? Is there any further discussion on this case? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the case, raise a hand, please. I got 8 this time, thank you. 8 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. And thank you very much. And we have one other item on new business, which does not actually require action on our part. So, Ms. Hawk, if you'd like to come back to the podium and present the material on out-of-state vehicle sales tax.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to be your favorite presenter by the end of the day, aren't I? I'm here this evening to give you some information on the city's upcoming ballot question on the out-of-state motor vehicle sales tax in August. So on Tuesday, August 2nd, Raymore voters will be asked whether or not to discontinue the collection of the city's sales tax on motor vehicles, trailers, boats, and outboard motors purchased from out-of-state dealers. In 2012, the Missouri Supreme Court ruled that cities without a use tax, such as the city of Raymore, would be required to discontinue collecting the local sales tax on out-of-state purchases of these items unless an election is held allowing voters to vote against discontinuing that tax. What's important to note is that this is not a new tax. The city of Raymore has been collecting this tax for many years and collects approximately $75,000 in revenue from it annually. This amount of revenue is significant. It could fund 4 city blocks of road improvements, 2,000 feet of sidewalks, or 1 full-time police officer. If the tax is discontinued, services could be cut to account for this loss of funding. Since the ballot language is asking whether or not to discontinue the collection of this sales tax, by voting no, the city would be allowed to continue to collect this revenue. Voting yes would eliminate the collection of the city's sales tax on the listed items if they were purchased out of state only and reduce the city revenue. More information is available on the city's website. I've also handed out a brochure to everyone. You've seen those throughout the community, and there more are available in City Hall. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, what is the sales tax?
You know, you asked me that, and off the top of my head, all of a sudden, I don't remember.
Well, city is a fraction of.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't bring written down. I'll email that to you. I'm sorry for that question.
Just curious.
Yeah. And it's just the city's portion of the sales tax. It's not the entire sales tax amount.
I would note, I think it's
Is that
unfortunate.
in addition to the sales tax, or is this, we get a percentage of the sales tax that's already
We
there?
get a percentage of the sales tax. Yeah.
I feel like it's unfortunate that the wording of this, of course, seems to be not exactly a double negative, but it's like a no vote continues the sales tax, and a yes vote eliminates it. And it's like, wow, that's going to take a little bit of thought.
Yeah, we have the Missouri legislature to thank for that.
Yeah, I'm sure we do.
I would only note for the commission, and thank you, there is some confusing language with regard to this. You will find in the upcoming election that there are a number of cities in and around the metro area that have decided this is an appropriate time to bring the measure forward. Kind of the hope for that is because there is confusing language, that any information is provided will benefit for all of the municipalities as opposed to trying to re-educate on a yearly basis for when you try and redo this.
So do you anticipate that the ballot question will be similarly worded in all of the municipalities?
Yes.
That would at least be good.
That's
So
exactly
if I-
correct.
So if I hear another town advertising it it's pertinent.
In fact, as I understand it, only one town in Missouri has gone the opposite direction of that, and that's over in Hannibal side.
I will note, however, that the fire district, the South Metro Fire District, has phrased it the opposite way of the city, so they will require a yes vote to continue to collect the revenue, and the city will require a no vote.
So I think the advice I'm hearing is read the
Please
ballot
read your ballot
carefully.
question.
I would make a suggestion, sorry, didn't mean to cut off. this
No,
man's
that's
here.
fine. Sorry.
I would make a suggestion that because of that wording, that maybe the nice explanation put on the back bottom might be somewhere placed in the front as soon as you open it up. Because if I just pick this up and I read most of it, I'm thinking, oh yes, no big deal. But then I turn the back, and that's where the real explanation is. I would take and open this brochure up so that the no and the yes is up front.
That's great feedback, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. Other discussion, questions for Ms. Hawk? No? Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. Let's see, Mr. Zur.
Thank you very much,
Could
Chairman.
we hear the city council report, please?
I am happy to provide the city council report. Most recent city council report that I will provide will be based upon the July 11th, 2016 city council meeting. I believe that is the only city council meeting that has occurred in the interim from our last meeting. During the course of the city council meeting, there are three things that I draw your attention to. The first one is, and you all will remember each one of these as well, I'm sure, we had a modification to the development standards for the Shadowwood Phase 2. There was a public hearing held at the city council level for that one. It was previously approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission on July 5th, 2016, and it was approved by a 6-0 vote. That has received its first vote for approval, and will have a second vote coming up at the next city council meeting. Those changes, as you might recall, were going to alter access points for an alleyway along the back, where they have now converted the homes or the lots to be more traditional sized lots with front entry garages as opposed to rear entry garages. Following that is a replat of Shadowwood Phase 2, and that was simply a replat that altered the lot sizes or the lots that went along with that alteration in the development standards for Shadowwood Phase 2 in order to reflect the front-loading garages as opposed to the rear. And of course, there was notation during the course of our hearing and referenced again during the course of the city council hearing, which would indicate that there would not be access from the back of those new lots from the alleyway. I'm sure that thoroughly confused you unless you were here for the actual hearing. The other one that we had as far as city council is concerned was the permanent closure and removal of the access drive at 1918 West Foxwood Drive. You'd recall this as the Ryan's access item that you've got. During the course of the city council, hearing was not held on that one. In fact, I believe it will be coming back to you as a members of the Planning and Zoning Commission for further discussion. It was discovered in follow-up investigation that there were issues in a survey that had been completed which altered the property line for that access point and in fact created a new individual that would need to be notified for purposes of participating in the public hearing, as well as an easement holder that would also be able to participate in the course of that hearing. I anticipate that that will be coming back to the Planning and Zoning Commission on the 16th of August, thank you very much, Mr. Carteret, for further consideration to reopen that public hearing in order to take any additional information from any of the other interested parties in there. In the meantime, we will be providing the appropriate notice to those entities. So that is all I have, and I'm happy to answer questions about any of the three of those items if you're so inclined.
Yeah. Well, good explanation. I was curious about that last one.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Zerk. Okay, Mr. Carteret, if you would, present the staff report for us.
Yes, sir, thank you. Tonight, I just want to just briefly talk a little bit about the building activity that's going on in the city. I'm sure we've all seen visible signs of what's going on. It's an exciting time in our community. We're seeing building activity at a level we haven't seen since 2007. So it's very good things happening. When you look at the new single-family homes, this is as of June 30th, we had a total of of 88 detached and 14 attached single-family. So we're at 102, and that was as of June 30th, compared to 46 at this time last year. So last year was a very good year for building activity in Raymore. So we're very excited at what's occurring this year. We're seeing unprecedented building activity. In July, we're already over 20 permits at this point in the month. We have another subdivision that we're aware is going to be bringing in over 30 permit applications at one time. So it's a very busy for residential activity. Regarding commercial activity, I'm sure many of you or all of you have seen the activity at the Cadence project, the former Dean property. I believe it's being called the Raymore Marketplace. So they finally have titled it. So I always refer to it as the Cadence project. They're the developers, but the Raymore Marketplace and site work should actually start commencing since the buildings have been demolished, and they have some land clearing activity to do, but we'll see some good positive construction activity on that property. Of course, Big Biscuit is open for business, doing very well. The Mexican Viejo Restaurant in Willowwind, we're hoping they'll get their final inspection approvals tomorrow. Doesn't mean they'll open right away, but I know they're ready and anxious to open. So we're excited about that. So quite a bit of activity going on throughout the building community, focusing on the numbers regarding construction. Currently we have 211 active homes under construction. And then what I like to focus on is the number of undeveloped lots that we have available. We currently have 670, which sounds like a lot of lots where somebody could just walk in and pull a permit to build on. It wasn't that long ago that number was over 1,300. And so we've made a very positive reduction in having the availability of lots. So we have a lot of builders that have come in and are purchasing these lots that have been sitting, unused for many, many years. And that number actually also includes the new lots that we established with Creekmore. So even with the building activity in Creekmore, these are lots that are spread out throughout the community. So we're excited about getting that number down, and we're starting to see some activity as far as new phases of development. Brookside just opened up their 10th phase right by the Stonegate Elementary School, so we'll have some building activity going there. And we have some other developers that are in discussions about doing new phases of construction. So that's very positive for the community as a whole. And looking at our schedule, our next scheduled meeting was August 2nd. Ms. Houck indicated that's the election day, so we will not be meeting that day since this room is utilized currently as a voting location. But we will have a meeting on August 16th. As Mr. Zur indicated, we'll have a public hearing for the Ryan's Axis on the agenda for that evening. There may be additional items. We are not past the filing deadline. And then, depending upon your recommendation on August 16th on Ryan's, that would be on the August 22nd City Council agenda. And then the last item, I'll just defer to Ms. Houck. I believe she has another item to go over with you.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. Just to follow up to my previous item, the city sales tax rate is 2.5%.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Carteret, I don't know, were you thinking you were done?
I believe I am.
Okay, because I have a question under
Okay.
department activities. I guess
Yes.
it was about the fourth bullet. So can you tell us anything about your work on the Google Fiber?
I will defer to Ms. Houck on that as well, if she doesn't mind.
That works.
I can certainly, but she'll do a better job.
That works, thank you.
Yes, I have a breadth of projects I'm working on right now.
Obvious.
So Google Fiber recently announced last week that they are coming to the city of Raymore, so we're very excited to get started on that project. I'm happy to give a brief summary or answer any specific questions that you might have.
Brief summary sounds good.
Okay, great. So so they haven't started work yet, but over in the next month or so, they will begin constructing the backbone infrastructure for the Google Fiber system throughout town. So you'll see them on main roads and right-of-ways. And we'll expect that to take probably till early 2017 for them to complete the backbone. Once they complete the backbone, they'll be moving into neighborhoods and creating some key connection points in the neighborhoods, and then branching out and making the individual connections to homes. So we still are at least probably 18 months away from people being able to have Google Fiber in their home, but we're very excited that we've started the process and are going to be kicking off the build within the community. So there's some significant right-of-way work that will be done in order to support that infrastructure. So you'll definitely see quite a bit of that happening throughout town over the next 2 years.
Okay, and if you don't mind a question or two,
Sure.
does that have any impact on existing franchise for instance, cable television or any of the other services currently available here?
No, it's just an additional
Okay.
option that will be available.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Berenson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How long will it be before we have just a rough idea? They're not going to encompass the entire city, are they?
They're not, we haven't seen exact boundaries for what their build-out will look like. We know it does follow the main 58 corridor and expands on either side of that. I believe it goes to J Highway, but it is not on the east side of J, only on the west. Hubach Hill to the south.
That answers my question right there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's just the core area right now, but I would expect, once they get that build-out done, they'll look at expanding it.
Counting on you to see what you can do about that. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Bowie?
When I first moved into Raymore in 2005, sorry, Commissioner Anderson, but UVerse, they came out one day and they were digging in my backyard. I didn't authorize them to dig in the backyard, they just came and dug in the backyard. Will residents face the same shock and surprise when putting in Google Fiber?
So there will be work done in the right-of-way, which does go through many yards, and I'm sure you've heard through the media the work that's been done in some of our neighboring communities. That has sometimes been a challenge, and so the city has been working very close with Google to make sure that we have a schedule that we can publicize to the extent that we know that. Google representatives have indicated that they have learned a number of lessons in a couple of years it's taken them to get to Raymore, and they have a pretty comprehensive education process that they'll be going through with residents as they move into the neighborhoods about what sort of work will be done in the yards, what the restoration process of the yards will look like. They have increased their customer care center in order to be able to handle any concerns or complaints. And then, of course, the city is involved in coordinating all of that. So to the extent that they're allowed to do work in the right-of-way, they will be doing that, but we will be working to make sure citizens are educated about when they're going to be in their area. But I believe it'll be mainly confined to front yards at this rate.
Yeah, mainly confined to the front yards, and my understanding was they'll do a pretty extensive door hanger system if they do intend to work in easements, that they would try to notify you as a resident that, maybe within the next 24, 48 hours, they will be on your property, going through an easement or likewise.
Yeah, but you can't do anything about it, though. Yeah, okay. All righty, sorry. That was rough. I still got areas of my backyard that haven't grown in 10 years, so. All right.
Other questions for Ms. Hawk? Yeah, Mr. Carteret, I am bound and determined to drag some more information out of you. So the last bullet there on page 5, a tour with city staff members of multifamily and industrial developments in several Missouri communities. Oh, again.
She'll do much better.
I am so sorry. I take it
I need
that
to
you
come to
were-
your meetings more
I take it
often.
that
Apparently,
you
it's a
do,
good
but I take it
handoff.
you were part of this tour as well. So my
Yes.
question, I found that item fascinating. To me, it seems like a very good thing to do, and if you wouldn't mind, I am interested in knowing what other Missouri communities you benchmarked.
Absolutely. So our Economic Development Director, Matt Tapp, put together a tour for the City Council to go explore what some other communities are doing in terms of development and housing. And so we started our tour in Lee's Summit. We went to some high-end multifamily units in Longview and looked at those apartment complexes and had a great conversation with the developers and operators of those complexes. Then we moved up to the industrial area by the Lee's Summit Airport, and the Lee's Summit Economic Development Council's director took us on a tour of that area and talked about some of the challenges in that area and some of the businesses that they were hoped to attract in that development. We then went up to the city of Gladstone and toured Linden Square, which is their development area, or their downtown area, which they have essentially created from scratch. And it was mainly driven by the city, and a lot of public funding went into that. And so we met with city representatives and discussed how they were able to do that downtown concept, since we know it's a priority from our community conversations. We then went over to Kansas City, Missouri, to the Burlington Creek development, which is at 64th and I-29. It used to be called Tuileries, and then it was purchased.
Is this north?
It's on the west side of I-29 at 64th Street,
Okay.
on the south side of 64th Street. So between I-29 and Parkville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we met with the developer, North Point Development, to take a look inside. They have a mixed-use development there where it's retail, and then the main building, the Denton Building, has commercial on the ground floor and luxury apartments on the upper level. They're also doing, they have other high-end apartments around that development and some high-end senior living options in that area too. So he talked us through that development, some of the challenges they faced, and we had a great conversation with him about marketing our community to developers and what sort of information they're looking for. And then Brent Miles is the developer. He took us over to North Point's development in Horizons in Riverside. It's at 635, and right before 635 crosses over into Kansas, and it is a significant industrial development that mainly has automotive suppliers because it's halfway between the Ford plant and Fairfax. So we got to look at a spec building that they've put together as an industrial site. And then we ended our tour in North Kansas City, looking at, again, some high-end senior housing, and then they also have a new urbanism development of townhomes and smaller homes that are placed fairly close together by Mackin Park in that area. So we did a pretty comprehensive tour, looked at a variety of different developments, had some great conversations with city and development representatives from some of our neighboring communities, and I think the city council got a lot of great ideas from that tour.
Yeah, actually, if I could intervene here, from our work session last night that we had, there was a lot of discussion over our strategic plan strategic development plan, and some of the reformation of goals that have occurred by city staff for us because of the excitement that was generated for the council during that site visit, and some of the focus areas that we're going to be able to concentrate on a little bit better as it relates to maybe even developing our own downtown identity, or some of the other mixed-use items or living type arrangements that might be a fit to our community, and for its development of this area and possibly the 49 corridor as it relates to the Otis Good property as it stands now, and then even further south for the potential for industrial development. So there were a lot of great ideas that came out of that. One of which I thought Mrs. Hubach had a great idea. She says, we did that tour around the area. We should take a tour of our own city now, so that people can, on the council, can now see what potential development could occur from what we saw that is going on within the metropolitan area and how it relates to Raymore. So it was a great event. It was tiring. Miss How Can I helped Mrs. Hubach on several occasions, and she was always very gracious and thanked us for that. But it did allow her to get into some areas that she might not have been able to see had she not had the assistance. So we were, with her institutional knowledge, I'll say, she does provide a wonderful perspective. And right now, she's eager to go and support many of these projects that are moving along. So we're excited about that, and I know as mayor, I'm very excited about the potential for projects to come before this body to then come to the council. So we're hoping we can generate that excitement within our development community as well.
Good. I have just one question. I apologize. So you started in Lee Summit, then you described an area by the airport. I missed the name.
It's by the Lee Summit Airport. I'm
Lee
not-
Summit Airport.
Yeah, is there a specific name?
I forget what you said about that.
Yeah, it's where Frontier Justice is,
Oh, all right.
Sky Zone.
Close-
Is
close
that the
enough.
Yeah,
Close enough.
yeah, that area.
It was a contrast from where you started in Lee
Right.
Summit, apparently, because
Yeah.
what is the population of Lee Summit now, roughly?
Yeah.
100,000. I was going to say it's significantly larger
Yep.
than Raymore, so it's got different areas within that 100,000 population. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sarsfield.
With all these tours and good ideas and everything, I haven't heard anything mentioned directly about industry coming in, or with how they brought industry into their area, or in certain other restaurants and businesses other than another breakfast store or so forth, et cetera, et cetera. Do we have is there anyone pushing to get people in here to bring a warehouse, anything that would employ a lot of people other than 2 or 3 per building or per business? And a lot of the businesses that I've seen, like the Mexican restaurants, is the Chinese restaurants, is mostly family members. So you're not really picking up Bill Smith to come in and work, who lives down the street, so to speak. So is there anything that we are pushing on in the city as far as bringing in any type of industry?
Sure, so I'll say a couple of things to that. First of all, Matt Tapper, Economic Development Director, that is his sole responsibility to go out and promote Raymore as a viable community for development. And that doesn't just mean industrial development, it's also working with commercial users and office space, retail, restaurants, et cetera. As you all know, in order to get development to come to town, you have to submit a pretty specific demographic profile that meets their users. As we found out, especially with Raymore Marketplace, getting a sit-down restaurant there has been a top priority, and that the Cadence went out with a list from the city council and contacted 60-plus restaurants saying, hey, we'd love for you to come to town. And the biggest challenge that we're facing is that our daytime population drops fairly significantly, and restaurants decide where they're going based on a lunchtime population. So demographics are somewhat working against us right now. But that ties me to your second point of the way to combat that is to have primary employers located in your community and to create more population during the daytime. And so as part of the strategic plan, we do have a strategy focused on attracting primary employers, attracting employers that pay above county average. So we want good quality jobs here to provide a nice mix with the retail jobs that already exist in our community so that there are diverse options. And then we had a great conversation last night about how to get more professional job opportunities to locate within our community as well. So job creation is huge, and it will actually be one of the driving forces to help us get more development in other areas in our community. So we are working very hard with that. One of the things we did learn on our tour is when we were talking to one of the developers, he said, I don't even know where Raymore is. and so that's a challenge. Most people know where Belton is. We really need to do quite a bit of work distinguishing ourselves from Belton. A lot of people think of us as Raymore peculiar, so really creating our identity as a community and making sure we are providing the correct information to these developers to help them make the business case to have people locate in our community. So it's really a demographics game more than, hey, we'd love to see a Chick-fil-A in town. We have to prove that we have their demographic profile in our community and that their business would be successful here. The other challenge that we're working through, just because this is a common thing that we hear, is, well, these people are going to Belton, why aren't they coming to Raymore? Well, we're looked at as a market area with Belton, and so when they drop a pin, they look at the demographic, they just drop a pin and draw a circle, so they're not looking at, well, Raymore needs a Chick-fil-A and Belton needs a Chick-fil-A. They're only putting one in this area. And to date, land prices in Belton have been cheaper. And so that's not something that we can always control, but it's why a lot of the development has gone to that side. So getting the corner developed here by Cadence is a big step in the right direction for us because it takes away a key development opportunity. Now that we have that full, we can start looking at some other locations like behind the car wash. So we've got a pretty comprehensive program going right now, but it does run quite a bit in the background until we have something, big to announce.
Go ahead.
One more question.
Commissioner Sarsfield.
I have been talking with a number of people, a couple neighbors who are in business, myself who has a business. I've gotten people from 18 years old to 60 years old, and you get a 25-year-old who doesn't know how to read a ruler. I mean, things are bad enough as it is. My neighbor, he says, I could use 3 people now in air conditioning, but I can't find anyone that has any, even if they have the gumption, they don't know what's going on around them. It seems like our nation in general, we dropped our trade schools. For someone who wants to, a kid wants to get into plumbing, carpentry. My mechanic says, unless your car's falling apart, it just blew up. He says, I can't work on it for a month. And I talked to other people about their mechanic, and they're having the same problem. I think something like that is a school to bring in, which would bring in a decent salary for 10, 20 teachers, the staff that supports it, whether it's connected with our school system or even a separate school system, because there isn't any trade school that I know of probably within 75 miles. So if we have the first one on the block, so to speak, it will draw a lot of people into. And I don't mean shop class in high school because they're not pushing anything. The trades are dying out. My website says I'm a handyman. Can you build a 2-story house? They don't even know what handyman means. It's like even the public is illiterate with it. Anything of that in the works?
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson.
Specifically to that question, and I'm hearing that most of that's directed more toward the school district. Yes, we do have partnership with the Cass Career Center that has, HVAC, that has EMS type studies, and also we have a partnership with Longview Community College as well. Actually, the Metropolitan Community Colleges as well. So there is a footprint in that, and actually there is discussion to have an expanded footprint for those type of trades, not just for college, but for college and career readiness.
Where is that located?
It's in
Where is
Harrisonburg.
that located at?
I think it's in partnership with RAPAC, is
That
that
is
correct?
Yeah.
I will also mention that the Cass County Economic Development Corporation has been working with all of the cities in Cass County to develop a workforce development initiative, which is exactly what you're talking about. In order for people to locate here, we have to have the workforce, a skilled workforce to support that. And so a group of city representatives from all of our communities have been working together to look at how can we provide more of those services for our residents. So also a conversation that's going on.
Commissioner Bowie, did you have something to add? No, we're good? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Interesting discussion. I think still relevant to planning. Yeah, okay. Nice move, Mr. Cataract. Nicely handled. Nicely handled.
I
Thank
could
you.
set something down to Mr. Zur, Mr. Eads, if you'd like.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I suppose we should move along to public comment this evening. Anyone wishing to speak at the podium, please come forward, and we've had you enough there, thank you. So we'll move on to commission member comment. And let's see, I always try to scramble this around a little bit. It keeps me on my toes at least. So, we'll see if I can randomize. Commissioner Meiske, since you were first here this evening, I think I'll start comments with you.
I have no comment.
All right, fair enough. Now, if I could just remember who was number 2.
You were.
Oh, okay, I'm going to pause for a minute. Commissioner Pfizer.
I'm just wondering what a big biscuit is, and do I need one? They are? What's a big biscuit?
biscuit.
I've
our new-
seen it, I just don't know what.
Yeah, it's our new breakfast and lunch restaurant that
Oh,
we
it's
have.
open now?
It's open now. It's only open till 2 in the afternoon, but it's open for breakfast early and for lunch, and it's very delicious.
Okay,
Been
now
there
I
3
know.
times now.
Have they had their grand opening yet? I don't remember.
They don't do grand openings.
don't?
That we were going to do a ribbon cutting for them, and they say that that's not in their makeup, so just go
Okay.
and enjoy.
So don't wait, they're open.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Sarsfield.
No more comments.
Okay, well, thank you. Commissioner Berenson.
No comments, thank you.
Wow. All right, Commissioner Anderson.
I do want to thank Ms. Hauk for the double presentation today. I think it was probably 12 hours in between presentations on the out-of-state motor vehicle tax, so I do appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Let's see, Mayor Turnbow?
Well, I think you heard me when you asked about the site visits. I was actually going to comment on that, and so I...
I'm sorry if I
hadn't-
stole your thunder, but...
No, that's fine. Nothing else to add, though.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and we always appreciate your time.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Take time and counsel to do those things. We ought to do a road trip sometime with Planning and Zoning Commission. It would be, it would be interesting. Well, it may be just as well that we didn't try to piggyback with City Council, so that's good. Commissioner Bowie?
No comment, thank you.
Okay, did I miss anyone on the commission? Except myself, well, and I know I sound like a broken record. I want to thank city staff, Mr. Eanes, Mr. Zur, Mr. Cataract, Ms. Hawk. Please come anytime. I'm sure you have a lot on your plate, but I think we certainly benefited from you being here tonight in about, what, four different ways or so. And as always, we could not do the job we do without the support of staff. So thank you very much. And particularly when you're out on the tour of neighboring communities and all that, you know, I really appreciate that part of planning pipeline, because I don't think most people realize what you do with your time. You're involved in planning, you're involved in zoning, code enforcement, plus you're a pretty darn good secretary, but not to take anything away from Mrs. Johnson, I do miss her help and support. Okay, that's all I have. If any of the commissioners want to say anything else, now's a good time. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Anderson, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Meiske? All right, all those in favor, raise a hand, please. And I think I counted 9, something, but anyway, 8 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. What'd you do? Did you...